Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Central Texas Life. It is my joy and a pleasure to introduce you to Sarah Aynesworth, who is commonly known in the area as Miss Manners. No, Mrs. Manners.
Mrs. Manners. Ms. Manners.
Ms. Manners.
Yep.
Because she is the area expert on etiquette. And I loved having you on Central Texas Living, the TV show.
We had a lot of fun.
You have already, a couple of years ago, we did a podcast together, but it was time to revisit some things, I think, and I just love talking to you anyway. But I always learn something.
Well, I hope you learned something today. I hope I don't let you down.
Well, you know, I have already from this. Anyway, we'll get into this. This is kind of wedding season, though, classically,
Indeed.
although really weddings happen all the time. I think in the fall, too, there's a lot of.
There are Christmas weddings, and there's actually but I will say, you know, usually warmer weather indicates.
Right, and if folks are thinking
season.
about having outdoor venues and that sort of thing, it's, yeah. Well, so that's what we want to talk about. I want to talk about from the standpoint of the bride as well as the guests. Normally, we just talk about guest etiquette. So let's start with the guests.
Okay.
What is the one biggest thing a wedding guest needs to do?
Well, I think there are responsibilities. I always teach, you know, guest duties and host duties. And I start very young with children talking about this, of how to be a good guest, because it's an art of how to be a good guest. It's an art of how to be a good host. So I would say the first guest duty that anyone needs to do is reply to the invitation.
That's what I figured you were going to say.
Yes.
Because it's amazing how many people don't.
How few people
Why? And
reply.
why is that? It's not that hard.
I know. And apply as, you know, reply as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
You know, for example, I just received a beautiful invitation for a wedding in July, and I replied, I said, we cannot go.
You already knew it was a conflict.
But I already knew,
or whatever.
and yesterday I sent my reply in, wrote that I bought a gift, sent the gift. Sometimes, you know, life goes so fast, Ann. And this is someone that I needed to, you know, I wanted to receive a gift from us. You're not under any major obligation to send a gift every time you receive a wedding invitation.
Oh, really?
If you don't know somebody very well, let's say someone that you don't know very well invited you, you could always just send a really nice note and say, I'm unable to come. If you go to the wedding, I would send a gift. But if for some reason you cannot go to the wedding, you could just write a really nice note and say, thank you so much for thinking of me. I appreciate being included. Have a wonderful time. I'm unable to attend.
Well, you know, weddings are so expensive, and especially these receptions that have, you know, with a full meal and the band and the whole thing.
Right.
It's just crucial that the host family knows how many people are coming.
Right. And if it's $100 per person, or
I
haven't given a big party lately, so I don't know what per person is, but I would say, you know, depending on how nice it is, but I mean, if someone is, you know, thinking that you're coming and they're paying for you, it's disrespectful to the relationship. And that's, you know, like I've always said, Ann, manners are about being respectful and being kind more than anything else.
Kind of
simple. So it's just
things.
the respectful thing to do. If you can't come, you need to let those people know immediately for their count, because as food gets higher and So what about the old +1 thing? Should one assume, say if they're single, that automatically means they can bring someone or not, or should they just assume if it's just addressed to them? If it's just addressed to you, I would only bring myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, if it says, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Brian Aynesworth, my children are not included.
Right.
So your children are not included unless their names are on the invitation.
Oh, and family.
And family. Right.
And usually the reply card will then say, how many people are you bringing? So at least they know.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Well,
this is an interesting kind of new thing I think about weddings that I just learned. I just gave an engagement party for somebody, or shower, and the bride wore white to the shower, and she looked beautiful. She was wearing white.
I didn't
to the shower.
know. So is that unusual?
This is kind of a new thing that even at all the pre-parties prior to the wedding, the rule used to be you cannot wear white to the wedding.
Well,
as a guest.
Course. Oh, yeah.
So a guest
that
duty.
Is still very much
guest
verboten.
duty. Yes, guest duty. Do not wear white to the wedding because it's the bride's day to shine.
Right.
But I did not realize that it's sort of a new rule that's come into effect is do not wear white to engagement parties or showers prior to. That the bride, that's sort of the bride's color if she so chooses to wear it.
So yeah, so you don't wear white to any of the pre-parties.
Right. That's sort of a new understood, manners as our culture changes.
Yeah, things are changing all the time.
Yes, and people's last names are changing. Tradition is out the window.
Yeah.
But traditionally it was just for the wedding. But I think that, that's just a funny thing that I didn't realize until just a few weeks ago.
Well, as I was researching some things, and there are lots of places you can go to find out brides' do's and don'ts and all, wedding type etiquette, because it is the one event that really has a lot of rules. And as you say, the rules kind of change. Well, these little Hummers have changed things as well. And I was totally convicted about something that I didn't know that this is really not, but I'm always taking video of the bride coming down the aisle. And unless they say, but they, if they say turn off your phones, but if they don't say turn off your phones, I'm figuring they don't care if people are getting other shots and stuff. So, I try to do it very, very sneakily, I don't want to be in any of the official video doing it, and then I'll post, so-and-so is married, Mr. and Mrs. Not supposed to do that. Apparently, it's the purview of the bride to put that on, but it could be, weeks before they kind of get around to sometimes putting.
I know. And I don't, a lot of times I do think that this, the taking videos or taking pictures of things, it has become a problem because I think some people have posted on social media and they didn't want people to see it, or, it makes everyone sort of invited to this wedding that you weren't invited to. So
yeah, well, then that's the thing. Yeah.
That's where the
why
social
didn't
media
she invite
part of
me?
Right.
Yeah.
Or I feel left out, or, it just takes away from a little bit of the privacy. I don't, but I think that, as we evolve with technology.
Yeah.
That's a new rule to if you are going to post it, ask the bride.
Right.
But a lot of times it will say, please no, and then some people, please no photos on social media or something, or please refrain.
I've never seen that. So I guess that's what the reporter in me is like, I'm going to report,
Right.
And the only response I've gotten usually on, and I just put it on my personal page was, oh, I couldn't go. I'm so glad you shared this,
Right.
And anyway, but then I'm reading, I'm like, oh my word, I should never be doing that.
Well, and it goes back to respecting the family's privacy if that's what they wanted. So I would, if, you might, obviously you're friends with someone that invited you to the wedding. So you might say, do you care if I post this?
Yeah. I
that
guess,
might be the question.
I guess people just need to assume I'm going to do it. Because that's just what I do. But yeah, I snapped the bride and groom walking into the venue for the reception. And I guess that would have been her opportunity to say, yeah, but don't put this on anything till
And that's where, we've become a little more proactive rather than reactive as that issue has come
I don't
to
think
pass.
she cared because she certainly never said anything to me. So,
but that's why sometimes it will say, please refrain from.
Well,
but so if it says that somewhere on your, paper that you receive, the bulletin or whatever, the
right,
program,
the
the
program.
program. If it says that on your program,
Yeah.
obviously you do that. But if it doesn't,
and often the
in this day and
the
age,
efficient, well, if that's the right word, officiant, the
efficient.
preacher would say before things got underway. But anyway, but maybe it's just assumed you don't. But anyway.
Well,
enough said on that, but I was surprised because I thought, oh no, I would never want to offend anybody. I did see though, from the bride's standpoint, she gets engaged. The one thing it specifically said was, don't post it on social media until you have called your family members that you've gotten engaged, because grandma doesn't want to see that on Facebook before she even knew he was going to see, oh, there's my ring,
Right. Exactly. And it just still goes back to, respecting other people's, if you're going to send something out about someone, make sure that they're okay with it, would be my rule of thumb.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we mentioned about children at weddings. And they can be darling,
Yes.
and they can be pills.
It can be not darling.
Not darling. How do you make it clear if you're the bride sending out and you don't want kids? How do you communicate that?
Well,
because some people just assume their kids are coming.
The invitation would just say,
so they're supposed to know that,
right? Just your name.
So would it be rude to have somewhere on the invitation, no children, please? Because sometimes people don't realize that.
I know. And I think sometimes people don't understand that rule. But, the rule is if your name is on the invitation, you are invited. Or if your name and plus one, you may choose to bring a guest. But other than that, no one else should be in that count, because if it's not a children's wedding, people are funny about children. Some people love children at a wedding.
Oh, and to
other
see
people,
them dancing
right?
At the
and other
reception
people
is
don't,
so cute, and
don't want any children at the wedding. Of course, they want it to be an adult-only affair.
And if children are in the wedding party, then they're going to be like nieces or nephews or close family members, probably.
Right.
And so all that's kind of communicated.
And if in question, you might not, go straight to the bride or the groom, but if you're friends with the mother-in-law or the mother, or you might just ask, I'm assuming that, my children are not included in this, and I'm going to get a babysitter. Do you know of any or something?
Right? Yeah, to kind of make it
just sort of say,
cagey.
Do you know of any babysitters for
that could
wedding if it's an out of town,
especially if it's out of town, because you've got to
right.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about dress, so I want to get kind of back to that, because there are all kinds of weddings in all kinds of locations. And what if you just really don't know what to wear? You don't know what beachy casual means, or festive casual. What
does
that?
There's so many that's where tradition is just blown out the window.
What does that mean? What does that mean? And of course, there used to be the rule you did not wear black to a wedding. But I have, because I've been to black and white weddings.
I know, and I've been a bridesmaid in weddings where the bridesmaid dress was just a black dress, a simple black dress, an LBD,
it's beautiful.
A little black dress. It is.
It is very elegant and beautiful.
And that's just where the whole idea of very rigid rules is no longer there. Are still the basis, the foundation of respect and protocol is in place, but in terms of even engagement rings, or all rings or names, or bridesmaids, groomsmen, all that has just it's becoming more apropos to that couple, so that it reflects the couple more than this is a rigid set of black and white rules.
This is the way we've always done it.
Right.
And so
but what never changes is the respect for the couple, whatever they choose for their ceremony to look like.
Okay. Well, we have a lot more to discuss. But we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will hear more about the do's and don'ts from the standpoint of the bride and the guest. Stay with us. And we are back with Sarah Aynesworth, who is our expert on all things having to do with good manners and proper etiquette. Emily Post, I think, was kind of the name associated with proper manners. She's been long gone.
Long gone. Her family continues the family business.
Yeah. Do you still refer to Emily Post? Or we talk about how things have changed.
Standard, yes, and her family is not rigid, and I don't think Emily Post was real, rigid. She was very, from what I can ascertain about her, very laid back. She said, "Oh, it could all be deduced down to 1 or 2 sentences," which is my philosophy too. And
right,
I feel like Anne
kind of the golden rule with you, isn't
it really is the golden rule, and manners really just help us all. They create equality in any situation in terms of...
That's interesting.
It creates a foundation of equality that we're all standing upon.
Right.
And, in different cultures...
No matter who you are, you're treated with the same respect.
Right. And no matter the position in a company, the handshake, you would still, shake. You have respect for the position. But if you have lovely manners, you are on the same foundation as the person that's your boss and 50 years older than you are. Does that make sense? It's just a foundation that creates an equal footing for all of us to stand upon.
Well, we've been talking about weddings. Yes. And there are some things that can be in the control of the bride and maybe not so much. But I went to a wedding recently, and of course, when the reception is at another location, people, you got travel time, and then always after the ceremony, there's all the perfunctory pictures, and that takes a good amount of time.
Right.
So there's always a lag between when the wedding party can get to the reception. Is there a time limit on that? Because what happened at this wedding, and whoever was there at the reception didn't realize we weren't supposed to be served the food, but after about an hour or so, and it was out and ready, we were like,
the food. Right.
Yeah, we just started eating, and then the wedding party came, and that's when we were supposed to eat. We were like, well, we've already eaten.
Was it a catered event?
It was
at
a buffet, a buffet kind of a thing. So. Well, they hadn't gotten into the cake, at least. They were allowed to cut the cake. But yes, and so then we were all very embarrassed but after, it was a long
How were
time.
You told? We
weren't.
How did you know? Because I would think,
when the wedding party got there, it was like, oh, now we're supposed to eat. So anyway.
That's so interesting, because I really feel as a gracious host, during that lag time, there should at least be some appetizers and drinks served.
Yeah.
You cannot expect a group of people to just stand around waiting 30, 45 minutes for the bride and groom to come.
Yeah.
With nothing to drink or nothing to eat.
Yeah. Well, yes. And that brings us to also drinks. Should you never expect your guests at a wedding to pay for drinks, like a cash bar, depending on, say it's in a hotel or whatever?
I think that's another example of tradition has just, been blown out the window in terms of what is exactly right and what is not. I've seen cash bars at weddings, and I wasn't offended because I realized that, I was invited to this, and I guess for some reason their budget didn't allow alcohol, and if people wanted to drink alcohol,
right,
that's their choice. So I would say, do I think it's gracious? No. But are you going to see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going to see it. And I'm personally think if you invite someone to a party, you should provide that, but not everyone can. And
Right.
so I'm not,
Well, and usually it's kind of clear, say if they're
Cash bar.
teetotal, then they're just not going to serve beer or wine or whatever.
Right.
And so that's certainly their choice
right.
to do it
And,
that
you
way.
know, and usually people in those situations, they're doing the best they can.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, but I personally would not. I would invite fewer people. Would be
Right.
what I would do.
Right.
I would invite fewer people so that I could have in my budget enough for food and drink. But if I saw it, I certainly wouldn't be offended. I would just think, well, it is what it is. Yes.
It is what
Accept
it is.
it.
Yeah. What about just sending an invitation to someone just to a reception and not to the wedding ceremony? Is that, I know
You
that's
see that.
done.
Yeah, you do see that. And maybe the actual wedding is very private and very small, or the location doesn't have enough room for
yeah.
everybody for the reception. But the bottom line is they're asking you to come celebrate their marriage
Yeah.
with them. And that's what I think when you get down just to the brass tacks, marriage is so sacred, and an invitation to a wedding is such a compliment that
Yeah, that's true.
whatever it looks like to that couple, you just roll with it.
Well, and that's what's good, that it does reflect the character of the couple that's getting married. You mentioned that a lot of women are not taking their husbands' names.
Yes, that's
So
changing.
how
That's
does
an
how does
example.
the preacher introduce the bride and groom? It's not Mr. and Mrs.
Well, it's the same as it would be on the envelope of, a written correspondence to them,
Mr. Miller and is it Mrs. Abbott or whatever?
Yes, it would be, whatever, or
So-
I would like to introduce to you.
It is so confusing.
I know.
Because
I know.
Mrs., her maiden name, that would be her mother. Anyway, I don't know.
I know, but if someone's let's say it's a late in life marriage.
Yeah.
And, it's a physician, and
Right.
the woman's a physician, and she is known as Dr. Smith.
Right.
And she's 42 years old. Well, she might not want to take
Yeah.
her husband's name because professionally she's really,
That's how she's
yes.
identified.
And this is a
yeah.
prime example of sometimes, this is how, as our culture changes, rules change.
Yeah.
Because even one generation before, the two of us, a woman would not have had a chance to really, there have been very few women that had become physicians and had a doctor title, or,
Right.
I mean, I always say, and especially for women, things have changed so much in terms of what we can do and what we're allowed to do and what vocation women can choose. So if a woman chooses to keep her name, I think that's fine. How the minister would announce it, or the whoever is officiating the wedding would announce it, would be up to that couple, because regardless of the rules, someone's name is their name. It's their name.
That's true.
And how they want to be addressed is how they should be addressed.
Yeah.
I have people call me, actually, even with the symphony, and they'll say, Sarah, this, for patrons or things, it should be this way. And I have a friend that his name's Robert Hickey, and he's written a wonderful book entitled Honor and Respect that's all about names and people's names. And he does the Crane's Blue Book of Stationery. And I'll call him, and I've met him at some of the trainings I've been to, and I'll call him and I'll say, Robert, I have a question for you. And he'll say, Sarah, someone's name is their name, regardless of the rules. How they want their name written is how they want their name, and you must respect it. And I'm like, that's so true, Robert. It's so true.
Yeah,
So,
it's not up to you to change. their
right. I
name,
mean,
yeah.
there is the rule of the honorable or whatever.
Yeah.
There's the rule, and then sometimes, Anne, I had actually a friend who was the mother of the groom, and she called me because she had done something, and someone told her, "Oh, Jenny, that is that's not appropriate. You can't do that. And I told her, I said, Jenny, sometimes you need to know the rules just to know that you're breaking the rules. So, rules can be broken, but it's good to know that you're breaking them.
Yeah, at least
you break them.
Exactly. So the next time I'm at a wedding and I'm tempted to video, but right. I will ask from now on about, is it okay if I post?
Right.
What I